Imagine you're having coffee with a friend and you say, "I'm feeling really nervous about my presentation next week." Without missing a beat, they say, "Oh my God, don't stress, you'll be fine. You should see this physiology paper I have to write. It is a killer." How might that make you feel in that moment? Rejected? Dismissed? Lonely? Are you likely to keep telling them how you feel? Do you think it would make you less nervous about your presentation? Now imagine instead your friend puts her phone in her bag, looks at you and says, "Why? What's going on? What's making you nervous?" How might that make you feel? Calm? Validated? Safe to keep sharing? The difference between those two responses is empathy. Australia is currently experiencing an empathy deficit, and it is fueling an epidemic of loneliness. We are all feeling it. Feeling lonely sucks. And it's as bad for our health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases our chance of dying early by 26%. Loneliness is the next social and economic crisis facing Australia. The antidote to loneliness, however, is not the number of people that we know, but the quality of our social connections. And the foundation of strong relationships is healthy empathy. But Australia isn't an overly empathetic country. We're not taught it in school. We describe it as a weakness and say you're either born with it or you're not. How often have you heard, "She'll be right, mate"? We don't see empathetic behaviour modelled by our politicians in Parliament, and we certainly don't see it in the comments section of Facebook. In fact, most of us aren't as empathetic as we would like to think. A recent survey across 63 countries measured how empathetic they are, and Australia ranked way down at number 45. 45th out of 63. When we don't promote or embrace empathy as a society, we're less willing to listen to each other. We're not as likely to ask for or offer support. Our personal and professional relationships suffer. Overall, we're not as happy, we're not as healthy, and we don't live as long because we're socially disconnected. Empathy is so powerful that it can save lives. I have 2 children. And when they were small, I struggled, really struggled. I was lonely and angry, and every single day I thought of driving off into the sunset. It was the only way I could see things getting better. I wanted out. I remember once crying on my kitchen floor with my 2 toddlers rubbing my back, saying, "Mummy, we're sorry. Mummy, what did we do? Mummy, how do we make it better?" But that's a normal part of motherhood, right? That's what we're all told. That's what we hear. The days are long, the years are short. We all got through it. Cherish these moments. Medication comes in 2 varieties, red and white. But that made me feel worse, more alone, more disconnected, more lonely. I remember the week before my daughter turned 3 and we were at a doctor's appointment. Lovely Irish woman, and she asked how I was. "I'm fine." "No, really, Leanne, how are you?" I laughed. "Well, I'm stressed from the moment I open my eyes to the moment I close my eyes. Even then I'm not sleeping, and I'm a seething ball of rage. You know, yay for motherhood, right?" She too had small children, so I knew she'd get it. Expecting her to laugh it off with a, "I know, kids, right?" She took me off guard when she said, "Leanne, this is bigger than you think it is. Let's see what's going on." My doctor was the very first person who didn't dismiss how I was feeling. She made me feel seen. She made me feel supported. She understood. It turns out I had late diagnosed postnatal depression. And oh man, did that make me nervous. What will people think? What will they say? What did I do wrong? I've failed as a mother. None of which was true. My doctor normalised my experience and supported me as we figured out what combination of medication and therapy worked for me. When we found the right balance, it rubbed out my wanting to drive off into the sunset lows. I know for a fact, empathy saved my life. So why do some people reply with, well, you chose to have children? And some say, it makes perfect sense you feel that way. What can I do? It's not because they're bad people, but it's because we don't understand or embrace empathy as a learned skill. And when we don't understand something, we tend to push it away. So let's unpack empathy, because it's important to understand that not all empathy is healthy empathy. One way to look at it is to think of empathy as having 3 types: emotional, cognitive, and compassionate, or feeling, thinking, doing. Emotional empathy is the one that most of us are familiar with, feeling the feelings of other people. It's also called emotional contagion. You kind of catch their feelings. Your friend feels anxious, so you feel anxious. And it's a normal part of the human experience. But without good emotional boundaries, if we repeatedly take on and internalise the emotions of other people, we can become overwhelmed and potentially experience emotional burnout. And that's not good for our health or our relationships. The second type is cognitive empathy, putting yourself in someone else's shoes or seeing their perspective. To practice cognitive empathy in a healthy, inclusive way, we must acknowledge our own values and assumptions and learn to listen with an open heart, to really see what it's like to be someone else. Who are they? What are they going through? What's their perspective? What's their reality? If we fail to suspend our own judgments and biases when trying to understand the perspective of someone else, we might reply with something unhelpful like, well, if I was you, I would, or why don't they just? Both emotional and cognitive empathy can fail to build connection if we don't respond in a way that develops trust and safety. The third type is compassionate empathy, the ability to share and understand the feelings and perspective of another person and respond appropriately. Healthy compassionate empathy combines the feeling and the thinking while also prioritising our own emotional health. It's learning to respond in a way that makes somebody feel heard, valued, visible, safe. Phrases like, thank you so much for telling me that. It makes perfect sense you feel that way. I get it. Healthy compassionate empathy is the antidote to loneliness because it strengthens our relationships, gives our lives a sense of meaning, and improves our mental and physical health. The ability to share and understand the feelings and perspectives of another person and respond appropriately belongs everywhere. In our conversations with our kids, our friends, our family, our partners, colleagues, clients, and yes, even strangers on the internet. There's a quote that stands out in my mind from a teacher I worked with who truly embraced healthy empathy. She said, one day a colleague came to me crying, saying she wanted to end her life. My knee-jerk reaction was to drag her to the ER and have her evaluated. But instead, I was able to take a step back, breathe, and really be the person she could turn to. I didn't tell her what to do or how to feel. I sat with her and listened. And when she was ready, we got her help. Healthy empathy is a gift. But it's not just a gift that we give to other people. It's a gift we give ourselves as well. We all feel less lonely when we practice healthy empathy. Imagine a world where we all accepted and embraced healthy empathy. Imagine if we all created and felt a sense of kindness, acceptance, belonging. Our relationships, our confidence, our creativity would flourish at home, at work, and out in the community. But healthy empathy takes practice. Nobody is perfect at it. It is messy, it's complex, it's often uncomfortable. And that's okay because it's human. Not so long ago, my daughter said to me, "Mum, you are being neither empathetic nor supportive right now." And she was right. I wasn't listening. I jumped straight into problem solver mode. Sorry, baby. Empathy is like a muscle that must be strengthened. And the ability to make somebody feel heard, valued, and visible is an absolute strength. To start with, we need to believe that our value is in us. Just us. Our humanity, our self-awareness, our presence, our ability to listen to make someone feel heard. Not in how smart we are, or having all the right answers, or being the best. It's not in being perfect or giving the best advice. Just us. One way to really be present and make someone feel important is to give them our undivided attention. Think about how you feel when you're having a conversation with someone and they check their phone. Next time you're having a conversation with someone, consciously put away your phone, out of sight, out of mind, and listen to that unique human being, just as they are, without judgment. Now, I know it's hard, but we have to resist the urge to give unsolicited advice. 2 words that instantly break connection are should and just. Nobody likes being told what they should just do. You should just have a drink. You should just stop smoking. You should just go see a counsellor. Should and just are minimising, belittling, dismissive. They imply that our problems are just that easy to solve. Next time you feel yourself wanting to say should or just, redirect and say, "Tell me more about that." And then listen to the answer. Really get curious. As you leave here today, pay attention to your conversations and whether you talk more than you listen or you listen more than you talk. Focus on listening for the emotion behind the story. You will build trust if you validate how someone is feeling. After your conversations, take a moment to breathe, reflect, and take care of your beautiful self so that you can show up and listen again to the next person and the next person. That is how we will create a culture of empathy. There's a beautiful quote by Brené Brown, and she says, "Empathy has no script. There is no right or wrong way to do it. It is simply listening, holding space, withholding judgment, emotionally connecting, and communicating that incredibly healing message of you are not alone."